Hello, everyone. If the world feels like a nightmare right now, that's because it is, including this bit of news. So, there is zero doubt in my mind that the strike on Kursk boarding school, where people were hiding, waiting to evacuate, was carried out by Russia. Zero, because it's not the first time. It's not the first time they hit their own. So, piecing it together from multiple sources, and I'm sure we're going to have telemetry and satellite imagery for this, so easy enough to prove. Here's what happened. This is in the portion of the Kursk region that is currently occupied by Ukraine, in the town of Sudzha. In that town, there was a bunch of people hiding in a boarding school building, waiting to evacuate. Russia went and hit that, bombed it, because, like I said, that area currently is occupied by Ukrainians. So they said, hey, fuck that shit. Let's just bomb the crap out of it, since we can't seem to dislodge them. And they ended up bombing their own people. More than 80 people were rescued from the building. Sadly, as far as we know right now, 4 people were killed and dozens more, many of them elderly, were wounded. And once again, even though Zelensky is not my favorite person ever, I agree with him on this. Russia is a state devoid of civility. I would also add that Russia is a state devoid of any consideration for human life and safety, including the lives of their own citizens. So, once again, Ukraine's military is doing its best to be as transparent about this as possible. Ukrainians general in charge of that region posted the stats. Of course, Russia immediately went to accuse Ukraine. But again, guys, it's very easy, super easy to determine where the bombs came from. This is the 21st century. You can't point fingers anymore and say it came from there. And Ukrainians don't target civilians. So far, any instances of civilian deaths that took place during Ukrainian attacks were few and far between, and they were usually accidents because Russia failed to evacuate people from heavily targeted zones where it conducted military operations. Meanwhile, another day, another attack by Russia against Ukrainian civilians. Again, let's not forget, they're doing this shit every single day and have been doing this for almost 3 years now, and that includes my parents. So there's been a massive attack on Saturday that killed at least 15 people in central Ukraine. So this was in Poltava, where a Russian missile struck a residential building, killing 11 people, wounding 16, including children. Additional folks were rescued from the rubble. And once again, one of the biggest problems there, determining the damage, is that buildings collapse and we don't know how many people are trapped under the rubble until sometime later. So these numbers may go up. Let's hope they rescue more that are still alive. And in addition to that horrific attack in Poltava, there was another one in Kharkiv, where 1 more person was killed and 4 were wounded during a drone attack. So, again, I don't know why anybody believes what Russia says anymore. I mean, how many Ukrainian civilians they have to murder for everybody to, really get it? That, yes, they do target civilians. They do it knowingly. It's not an accident. They do it on purpose in order to intimidate and terrorize people. Here's the thing. So they're saying that 1 person was killed in the city of Belgorod, that is on Russian side, saying it was again during a Ukrainian attack. My question is again, why do you have any civilians in any of the border regions anymore? Belgorod, Bryansk, Oryol, Kursk, all of that should have been evacuated like literally months ago. If you're gonna use your own border regions as a staging area for the army, they become valid military targets. Should be pretty obvious. There's been an explosion at a Ukrainian army recruitment center in Rivne, and that is farther to the west. And so this is what I was talking about when I said, while at the beginning of the war, the western side of Ukraine was relatively safe, which is why people fled to Lviv, for example. Now that is no longer the case. Now, basically, it's carpet bombing across the country day in, day out. So nowhere is safe. And I've had a lot of people ask me, like, why don't your parents evacuate? They can't. They have nowhere to go. There has been no guarantee from the Russian government and Russian military that they will allow civilians to go anywhere. So there's like no green safety corridor or anything like that. They basically said that if they see a caravan of cars or buses or whatever, they're going to treat it like a military target and bomb it. So people where they are, Dnipro, Zaporizhia, Kherson, all of those places, they have no way to escape. Unless somebody shows up and does like a massive airlift, there's nowhere to go and nothing anybody can do. And yes, feelings are still running hot and high when it comes to recruiting people to Ukrainian army. A man with a hunting rifle shot dead a Ukrainian army recruiter and ran away. Fortunately, he was caught by the police, but again, understandably, we have a lot of resistance to the recruitment sweep right now. Understandable. The US wants Ukraine to hold elections. Fuck you. Really? And how precisely do you want Ukraine to do that? Again, are you paying a fucking attention? Like that part where Russia is massively murdering Ukrainian civilians everywhere, at their workplaces, at their homes, in the streets, etc. We talked about the election issue a few days ago, where I pointed out that I don't like it either. We should have elections. We need elections. We need a government shakeup, but there is literally no way to safely conduct elections. So if anybody has like a practical idea of how to do that, I am all ears, and I'm sure so is Ukrainian government and Ukrainian people. Zelensky reiterated that excluding Ukraine from any conversation about Ukraine is stupid, and again, I agree with him. You know, it's not your pet, it's not your toy. It is a sovereign state that has been attacked. So, it has every right to demand participation in any conversation about the end of that invasion. And I want everybody to have a very clear concept of this. This is not a war, a territorial conflict, or whatever. This is an invasion. One country came marching into another country unprovoked. Don't give me the bullshit about NATO. Don't give me the bullshit about US, EU, any other acronyms. This is what happened. Ukraine was invaded, and this is how it should be treated. UN decided to wake up and say something, after failing to condemn all of the other horrible things happening, specifically the bombing of UNESCO sites in Odessa, the one I told you about yesterday where Norwegian diplomats got caught. This is about as useful as you might imagine. Go back to sleep, UN.